how hard was this book to do?
I was really at the end of the bottom and thought, okay, should I tell people we give up?
This is my conversation with Jean Francois Rolland, author of the new book, Star Wars 1978 to 1985, Kenner Toy Line. We talk about how he amassed one of the greatest vintage Star Wars collections, the ups and downs of writing this book, and honestly, the conversation was really inspiring because it's the story of perseverance and following your dreams. Please visit the links in my description to support this channel, but without further ado, here's my conversation with Jean Francois Rolland. So Jean Francois, hello.
Hi, Joey.
Hi. It has been a very long time since we first connected and saying that we were going to do this. And now I'm finally glad that we were able to connect because I got your book and it is a fantastic piece of, documentation and literature. So as I was reading it, and we talked about this before, a million questions came to my mind. And it was basically, how in the heck did you do this? In my mind, it takes a lot of work to do this.
Cool.
In reading your book, and I'm going to reference the book a lot because, and I was really interested in the 90s because in your book, you say that you collected a lot or the majority of your collection in the 90s. There was no internet, right? There really were no big conventions that you can go to. Nobody was really selling collection lots back then. And you're in France. We got to say that you're in France.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of collectors overseas or even in Australia, and Asia, how hard it is to collect the Kenner toys. And you did it during the late 80s and early 90s.
That's right. Yeah.
I wanted to know, how in the heck did you do that?
Well, I have to, again, thanks my dad, as he helped me to write in English, because at the time I was not able to have the conversation we have right now. I was still at school, trying to learn. I was 18 years old. And for some reason, I decided to put back all my childhood toys in my bedroom. And with the probably the frustration from the childhood where we could not get everything back in the days, especially during the era of The Empire Strikes Back, 1980, 1982, a lot of things were missing in the country. And my dad used to bring me, because he's a guitar player, he used to tour quite a lot in Europe. So he go to Germany, go to England, to Belgium, and in those countries they have everything like you guys in the US. So he used to bring me Palitoy packaging, Kenner packaging. This is how
so cool.
I fell in love with the Kenner packaging. But for some reason, I wanted to get my collection complete, to get them all. So I checking the Cincinnati address, and my dad helped me to write, and we have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks to get an answer back. So when it was like November 1989, I received my first letter from Kenner. Said, sorry, we have nothing. Try in England. In England at the time, it was Tonka was in charge of what Palitoys left behind. And they wrote exactly the same to me. Said, sorry, we have nothing. Please try to write in America. So I I found in an old fanzine magazine the address of Banter Track in California.
Mm-hmm.
So I sent a $5 bill, which is something you should not do, but I did it in an envelope. I sent it to the address, the Banter Track address, and like a month later, I have the letter back said, return to sender, like the Elvis Presley song, and nothing. And what helps, it's when I bought a model kit, a Star Destroyer model kit. It was in a model kit shop. Inside, there was a flyer for the Colorado Lucasfilm Fan Club magazine,
Okay.
So we decided with my dad, we wrote to them, and then I received my first subscription, my first magazine, and inside there was people selling Star Wars toys. There was advertising from Steve Denny. If Steve, you see that, hi, and thank you so much, because he's the very first guy I contacted in the States, in Kentucky.
Okay, so you contacted these people in the United States just by chance.
Exactly.
By chance.
Yeah.
And so that was the network back then to get all of these toys.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
but the correspondence isn't like today where I can talk to you right now in real time. I
Yeah.
can pick up a phone, or we'll have a Zoom chat.
Yeah.
Like you're writing and mailing. And
Yeah.
plus, like, you're still learning English, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
And so it's the language barrier. It's cool that your dad had time to help you out and do this for you. I thought that was very cool.
Hmm.
But it takes about what, 2 weeks for correspondence back and forth?
Minimum. Yeah. Minimum
So,
time was 2 weeks. Yeah.
and that's just for one piece, right?
Yeah.
Or asking questions about a piece. You may have a question, two
Yeah.
weeks, another question, 2 weeks, one more
Mhm.
question, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you did this over and over again for different pieces, correct?
That's right. That's right. We call Steve a couple of times, but the telephone bill at the time was so high we had to stop.
I can imagine.
It
So
was
that's why,
not.
like, everything that's inside the book is your collection.
That's right. Yeah.
The fact that you got to get into, I guess, collecting at what I think is the right time, because you probably bought some of those mint on cards for like $20, I'm assuming. You
Something
know,
like this. Yep. Yeah.
yeah, which back then, and let's preface this.
Hmm.
$5 when I was in college was a lot of money for me to spend on
Wait.
a loose action figure. Like $5 back when I was in college was a full tank of gas.
Yeah.
You know, um, hard to imagine now. Like $5 will get you a gallon
Yeah.
of gas these days. So I didn't have money to be spending on that all the time. I did sometimes,
Mm.
even though I wasn't a collector. But you were amassing a collection, like a true collection, because you were buying mint on cards. You were buying
Oh.
full play sets in immaculate condition
Mm.
back then. Here's what I really want to understand is, how do you go from having a collection to now saying, all right, I'm going to write a book?
Mm.
When does that happen?
Well, I think I always have something in my mind. I like to tell stories. And when I really wanted to make the book, it was in the mid year 2000. I tried to have a project with a friend, it didn't work. So I
Mhm.
left it behind. But I always have something in my mind. I said, one day I will do something. So from 2012 to 2022, I've wrote during the weekend, overnight, if I could, when the kids were bed. I really wanted to be clean. You have to be understood by native without any issues. So it was always, I have this in mind. This project you have on every action figures, play sets, and vehicles as seen in original Star Wars. That was the because when you start to write a book or something, you have to set the basement basically. So what should I do? Which kind of item am I going to show? And I said, okay, I want to target what I like as a kid, and that was what I saw in the films.
But Jean Francois,
Yeah.
there's one thing about saying that, I could say I'm going to write a book tomorrow,
Hmm.
right? It's one thing in my mind, it's one thing saying it,
Hmm.
and it's another thing to actually do it.
Right.
And I think you're glossing over. I mean, it took you 10 years.
Yeah.
And because here's the major questions that I had while I was reading the book. The more and more I read it, it's very detailed in the way that you go from the beginning, and it's in chronological order, the
Mm.
way that you know depict the action figures and play sets and vehicles. But it's not just that, it's that you put information of the toys, but also where Kenner was and what
Mm.
Kenner was doing and how the toys were being sold and how the market of the world was. To me, that kept on raising more and more questions of, like, how in the heck did this guy do this? Right? Because it is one thing to say, I'm going to write a book,
Mm.
and there's another thing actually doing it. How hard for you was this book to
Mm.
make? Because you're making it sound like it's super easy. Oh yeah, 10 years, did it on the weekends, it's like everything was great. Like, how, how hard was this book to do?
Well, it was not that easy for sure, but I've got the inspiration from Duncan Jenkins, from Gus Lopez, from Steve Sansweet, all the books they wrote about the Kenner
Mhm.
toys. And I wanted to write something was easy to understand for people, but like you said, chronologically, from
Yeah.
when the first toy coming through on the market in 1978 to the end in 1985. And also, I was so curious about people working on the project and how they work for it. Perhaps because there was a parallel with my own job. Working on the car design industry, the process with making the toys from sketch, model, prototyping, all that kind of things. I was probably also curious to see the difference between and then parallel between the two business, you know. So
Mm.
this is perhaps where it come from, the first idea, but also I have this love for Kenner. I always loved the company and all the toys they made. I played with the $6 million man. My sister, when she was kid, we played with the strawberry shortcase. They definitely and even Mask. I was a young adult, but I love the Mask series as well. You know, there's something magical that the other company don't have, basically, and this is something I really want to get more deep inside. And when I decided to do it, I said, okay, you do or you do not. There is no try, like a certain guy with green ears used to say, you know. So and maybe there's a reason why Yoda is one of my favorite character in the Star Wars line. But I I really wanted to get much information as possible because I said, okay, we're going to talk about something in nearly half a century behind us,
Mhm.
and people need information about it, not just collectors. It will be a book for collectors for sure, but if someone is interested about the toy industry, how it was, the revolution they bring on the market, it was also something to me interesting to put in the book, not just like a huge catalog, you know. And this is how it started basically. And then I start to read through the internet, and thanks to the nets, because it was an easy access to the Herald Tribune, and try to find out the article of the Christmas time. There was a lot of article about how difficult it was to get the R2D2 remote control, for example, back in 1978. I was, oh, that's interesting article, you know. So this is how I get the inspiration, and also books about the industry. I remember I read a book about it was an Australian journalist wrote a Toy Town. It's a massive book about the Hong Kong industry from 1947 through 2012 or something like that. And that was so interesting to see the development of the entire toy industry. So basically, to get more information about Kinner, I have to look back, you know. And this is something I've been teaching in the car industry. When you get too close to something, you need to walk back to
Yeah.
see a larger scale, and then you understand better the whole thing. And this, I believe, this is how I try to process first. That okay, I need more information about the entire industry, and then go back to Kinner because they're probably the pick up story from Parker, what Bernard Loomis did in his whole career, because it was completely interesting to have the story of those guys. Because this is to me a story of people working behind. That's the interesting thing for me. The story of those guys who did the line, like Jim Trangen, who was kind enough to leave his interview in my book. I was amazed that those guys said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." What? Well, you are Jim Trangen. You are the guys who basically make it happen, you know, for Kinner. And so having the chance to have a chat with those guys was to me, I never thought, I never believed, me living in France, never have the chance to get contact with those people, never. So now,
Well, but I mean, like just listening to you, it's like you can just totally tell like how passionate you are reading your book. It's the reason why I connected with it so much. And the first time I did get your book, it was a page turner. I had to read the whole thing in one sitting. Like I pretty much stayed there for like 4 or 5 hours. And the first thing
well,
I did was read everything because you were talking about the research that you did and going to the newspapers and the libraries and getting things, which I'm imagining now it's easier to get because there's so many publications. There's things like your book that are out there and other books, but researching it and getting it together, I know how hard that is. But the fact that and I know you're still leaving a lot of stuff out about how difficult it was
I'll come to
because
it.
well, here's how why I wanted to ask that, because I did read everything. I read your forward and who you thanked, and
Mm.
there's a little sentence that says, to my wife, thank you for putting up with all of the
Yeah.
layouts
Yeah.
everywhere. Can you
Yeah.
so can you talk about like what this did to you? What this like?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that, like the difficulties that you had on a day-to-day basis, just trying to get
Yeah.
this book
Basically, the family where we are, and my wife, she's in totally different background, and she
done?
loves other things. So when she saw me started to write and spending more time about my toy collection, she was like, "Oh, again, how many times, how many hours are you going to spend on this thing?" But she understood at one point, I love it so much, she could not stop me to do it
Yeah.
because I really want to do this thing. For everybody who make a book, you have to go to see all the pages, and I
Mhm.
understood you have to put all the layout on a huge wall, and the only wall I have available was my living room. So okay, I said I set up the whole thing, like, and it stood there for 4 years, basically from 2017 to 2021. And the only reason she accepted it was full of colors, and the kids love it. So he was like, okay, we can leave it because they like it. And my son was only like 2 years old at the time, so he was, oh, yellow, blue. He was enjoying so much. Okay, he can remain there.
It's cool that you had that support, but was there at any point either you or anybody else said, "Hey, this is making you crazy," or "This
Yeah.
is something that I think is, not healthy for you"? Were there any points where either you or somebody else said, "Hey, this is turning into an obsession," you
Yeah, I
know?
got some friends who start to do it. Who told me, "Nah, you got to stop that. I mean, people already wrote about Star Wars. Why are you doing this anyway? It's useless." And but I always have in my mind said, okay, you had the John Killerman book, for instance, but it come out
Mhm.
in 2003, and we were in the mid 2014, 16, something like that. I said, okay, but you got a lot of people that probably want some information. And the first idea was just to write in French and to have it in the French market, the Kenner line, because there was so many items missing. And I thought, okay, in the States, they will never get that book because they have so many information already. They don't need
Mhm.
somebody from France to show them a book about Kenner line, toy line. And but them still, my dad and my parents said, go for it because this is what you like the most. So carry on. Don't listen to your friends and just do it.
If it's something that's not worthwhile doing, you're gonna have those hurdles. You're gonna have those obstacles.
Oui,
Nothing, at least in my time on this earth,
oui,
nothing that has ever been worthwhile has ever been easy,
oui,
so I'm glad that you pushed through,
oui.
because looking at this book, it seems like there was a lot to push through layouts,
Oui.
through deciding on editorial. Even, can you talk about the photography
Yeah,
and how you went about the photography, and like and editing, and who helped you edit?
I did it all by myself because I just love it. This is
That's
something I
amazing.
love. I love making, shooting pictures. I love when I've got my camera. I'm happy.
The one thing that I thought was cool is that you kind of bring us to that, like, nostalgia, the way that
Um,
you shot your photographs,
yes.
like in a nod to Kim Simmons or the earlier Kenner photographers, what they were doing. I thought that was very cool
Mm.
that you did that.
I really wanted to do it that way because Kim Simmons is just such an inspiration for me as I grew up with those pictures from the packaging. And I really wanted to have the same type of picture, have the same background with a strong, heavy color, blue, red,
Yeah.
yellow, to bring the desert of Tatooine or the hot system and all that kind of things. I've got definitely get inspired by those guys, definitely. And then I got one of my friend. I didn't have any material like a proper photo camera or
Mhm.
the flash system, the lightning and everything. So I went to his place. To one of my best friend, basically grown up together. He's got photography in the blood, basically. So I knew where to talk to when I get information. I need information about how to make picture. But then when I have all the material, all the techniques, I just set the thing like it was in my mind. I said I want
Mhm.
it that way. I want it this way. I want the look to be that one a tauntaun. I want like hidden behind the sand crawler, a sand people figure or stuff like that. Everything then said, okay, I wanted to do it that way. But it took me 9 weekends, like 12, 15 hours to doing 3,500 picture. And then I
Wow.
select the best. And it was like, yeah, when you talk about when I thought I start to get mad about that, it was at the end of those shooting times. What am I doing now? I'm just shooting my action figures collection for 100 times already. Why am I doing that again? But I did. And then when I start to set my first layout, and I show it to a publisher in Paris, the third one in terms of publicity of publishing, and he said, "Yeah, well, your project seems to be good, and we want to talk about that with Disney. Are you agree with that?" I said, "Yeah, sure, go ahead."
Yeah.
When they offer the possibility to Disney to make the book, Disney never answered them back. Well, it took that 3 months. It was like back in 2017, at the
Mhm.
end of 2017, and they said it was in the beginning of 2018, and they started to say, "No, we're not interested for some." Not about the quality of the book or whatsoever. It's just because the publisher didn't come with many projects.
Yes.
They just come with one project. And if you don't come to Disney with like 5 projects for such a thing, they will not sign you up. So I thought, okay, so they want to do it. I could not do official because it was my first idea, try to do it official, but it
Mhm.
didn't work. So then I start to think about the editing, self-editing by my self-publishing, sorry. And this is how the QR code came through. Because I thought, okay, I can't do the book by myself right now. I don't have the knowledge to make a proper layout. Like you have to be a perfect book. You have to
Mhm.
be super clean. And I'm not able right now to do it. And I was quite busy with my job as well. And the only thing I could do by myself was making the mini movies, the mini films for my YouTube channel. So this is how I decided to set a YouTube channel. And almost every week from the end of 2018, I start to add one video in French, and then people
Oh,
came back
so
to me.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that your YouTube that the book you writing the
Mm,
book came first and the YouTube channel came
it came after.
because
Yeah, it came
because
after.
of the self-publishing thing or the,
Yeah,
problems getting I didn't know that. That's interesting.
mm.
That's
It's
interesting because that's how I found you was YouTube.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's funny because when I get stuck to one way, I said, let's try to find another way to get that project done in one way or another. I don't know how long it's gonna take, but it's gonna be done. I
Yeah.
was like in a point of no returns to me. No matter what it's gonna take, I gotta do it now. I can't go back. I was feeling
Well,
so frustrated. I said that book have to exist in a way or another. So
yeah.
then the QR code came to my mind, and I was working in Germany at the time and coming back home every 2 weeks. So I was shooting on one weekend. The weekend I was staying in Germany, I was editing on my hotel room. I didn't go out with the friends whatsoever. I was working in the week and working during the weekend on the Star Wars project to make sure to get the video done. But what I didn't realize when I started to make the videos, it like took me 3 years to get the whole video done with the
Yeah.
family life, the job life, plus the making the movie. So I would start to learn Adobe Premiere. I love
Mhm.
that software,
Yeah.
definitely. And this is how it, step by step, brick after brick, to build the house, basically.
You have a full-time job. You have a family
Well,
life. You have, children that you are raising. And to do this on top of that, that's just like an amazing feat to get all of this done.
well,
So you get this self-published, correct?
yeah, by
And you
myself.
do and you do start a Kickstarter and
Yeah,
Steve Sansweet supports
yeah,
your Kickstarter. Like, how is it like when you announce it, like, hey, I have this book, and then you get people not only like Steve Sansweet,
yeah.
but you get Gus Lopez
Yeah.
and Duncan Jenkins to write forwards for you.
Well, I start to put on May the 4th, 2021. At the time,
Yeah.
I was back to school to learn how to make layouts because there's something happened again against me, but I was still fighting for it. With the COVID-19, I could not go to work in Germany anymore. I was working with brand like Porsche, BMW, those kind of company. But then I stopped to work in March 2020 for good in the
Hmm.
business because I could
Hmm.
not get any more job as a supplier in design when I was making contract. You were working the time of a project, but then, bam, no more,
Yeah.
nothing. I said, what I'm gonna do?
Hmm.
I went back to school, learn web design a bit and printing, and this is how I get the professional way of making a book layout. I
Hmm.
went back to school for a year and a half, basically, and then in spring 2021, I said, okay, the only pieces missing to make the book real is the money, the budget to get it print.
Hmm.
Again, a new step where I have no clue, no knowledge whatsoever how it's going to be in that point. And then when I start to talk about, I'm going to do a Kickstarter for August 2021, it's going to be for a month, it was like, again, this time it's really a point of no return because people were jumping with me to that journey to the Star Wars storyline. This time
Yeah.
was like, I was start to get scared at that point because I said, I will never get the layout ready. I'm not a professional. And I now asking money to people. I said, oh my God, if it's not going to work, I'm dead. I will have to pay back people and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
this is the very moment when I start to get scared, to be honest, because I felt completely responsible with people's money. They
Hmm.
trust me, so I can't kill that trust. It's so to me it was so important at that point. So step by step, I was working even harder on a book layout to make sure I have it ready for get print. Was like supposed to be October 2021 at the time when I put back,
Hmm.
on the track. So I got the money pretty quickly, to be honest. In 3 weeks, I got like
Wow.
$15,000.
Wow.
When the bank manager said, "Nah, no way, you get the money," because my first idea was to go to my bank and asking for the money. I knew like I need 15 grand basically to get it print at the time,
Yeah.
and the bank manager said, "No way, man. You see, your bank situation is not so good. You'll never get the money. Forget it."
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So then I went to the Kickstarter, and my bank manager called me in the middle of August. He said, "How's it going? How's your project to get the money? I'm sure you didn't get anything." Yeah, well, we are mid-August, and I have 80% of my project now. I got the
How
money.
sweet. How sweet is that?
How about that, sir?
How
He
about
was like,
that?
well, I told you that
Yeah.
he didn't believe me. That's I was so happy to tell him that.
We talked a little bit before we started recording,
Yep.
and we always talked about this as a journey,
Hmm.
right? It's like
Absolutely, it's a journey. Yeah.
it's like your journey of you
Right.
starting as a Star Wars fan, and then you starting as a collector, amassing a beautiful collection,
Well,
and then the journey that you had through doing the research and doing the book and the photography and the editing and the book layout, and
well,
now the self-publishing, and now to get it funded, and now you release the book.
yeah.
And obviously I have a copy. I have a signed copy. I'm bragging. I have a signed copy. But you released the book, and dude, I to me when you were describing the pitfalls, but then you had to keep going. You had to keep going.
Well,
It gave me chills right now. Like I have chills because of it's the embodiment of when you know things are super difficult, when you
well,
know that maybe I should stop this, maybe nobody wants to read this,
well,
but it's like that inner passion that you have that no, I have to do this.
well,
That's what gave me chills. It's like the fact that there was so much pressure on you,
that's right.
and we did talk about how you took inspiration from Steven Spielberg and George
Yeah.
Lucas, because there were times like Jaws, like reading the production notes on Jaws and
Yeah.
how that movie should have never come out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
You
then
know.
what George Lucas had to face, and you told me, because we were talking off the air, how those two people
Well,
really kept you going and what they went through. Can
yeah.
can you describe like at those moments and
Mm.
hearing those voices in your head and keeping on going?
There's a very particular moment. It was like January 2022. The printing still start to get delayed for weeks because the target was to get it started to get printed at mid October 2021.
Hmm.
They said we can make it in 3 weeks. That way, I thought people could have it for Christmas 2021. Then the very first book start for be delivered for Easter 2022. And I must say, from October 2021 through March 2022, it was the very worst moment of my entire life for making the book happen because it was
Mm.
something I could not hold by my hand. I could collect, I could get the information on the web, I could make the picture by myself, make the movies, the mini movie for the QR code, collect the money for the budget to get it done. But that part, it was just like completely blank for me. And week after week, the project get delayed for some reason. They couldn't get the paper pole. It was like getting over budget because what they thought was working on the first time didn't work at the very last minute when they start to send the printing. For example, they thought like, okay, we can replace the English text by the French text very easily. Only said because it's black, it's going to be easy. But it was not just like writing in black. There was also white letters.
Mhm.
And then when it starts to come at the point when they go to get it printed, say, oh, we're sorry, but by the way, you have to add another 5,000 grand, $5,000 because we can't do it. Yeah, but that's been 6 months. You told me you can do it. No, sorry, sir. Gonna be more. So I have to find it with my own
Wow.
money. I was out of the
Wow.
job at the time
Yeah.
because still with the COVID-19, I could not get a job in the car design industry. I just left school, web design school. So I was get my degree, get my book project, but I had no money and I have to spend more money. So it was just like crazy. So at the end of January, precisely 2022, I got a phone call with the boss. He said, look, we can't get your book before March, end of March. I said, what? So you told me since October, every week is gonna be printed, and now you tell
Yeah.
me it's not gonna get printed before March. When I'm gonna
Wow.
tell to people? And he said to me, he said, "Well, sir, there's two possibility. We carry on or we stopped. We can still stop absolutely everything." And then I thought to Spielberg and Lucas, never give up. Go to see your dream. Go to do it. So I thought to those particular person who mean a lot to me, but particularly to George Lucas because of Star Wars and Spielberg as well. And I said, okay, we carry on, but without any idea if it's going to get print for good or not.
Mm.
Receiving message from people said, when I'm going to get my copy? We started to put money in August last year, see nothing coming through. So I have to calm down everyone. And I felt so bad because said, those guys
Yeah.
trust me
Yeah.
and they can give up at any moment. But there's a fan base start to create around the project anyway, and I have to thank them today because there has a lot of people on the internet who were part of the Kickstarter. There was 250 people following me through that journey, who gave them money, and most of them said, "Carry on, mate, just do
Mm.
it."
Mm.
So thanks to those guys as well, to everybody on the web, on the internet. We have the habits of saying like on the social network. There's also some toxic people, stuff like that. But there's also a lot of good ones. And they also were power to me to help me to carry on. But at that very moment, end of January 2022, I was really at the end of the bottom and thought, okay, should I tell people we give up? No way.
Yeah.
Let's carry on. I mean, I've did so much things before that I cannot stop. Again, the point of no return. Let's carry on. I mean, I'm gonna sell my house. I didn't have to house to sell anyway. Maybe my collection, but okay, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
carry on. To be honest, at that point, I was feeling very bad. To be honest.
No, I mean the fact that you did it and the fact that what I'm taking out of this conversation is very inspirational, you
Thank you.
know, because what you and that's why I really wanted to talk to you. And I'm glad my first questions about the book were I wonder what it took to do this.
Oh.
That was the first question that I had after I stopped reading it, because I don't know why. I've read collecting books, both that were both informational, but yours was the first one that honestly took me through a story of the Kenner process. I don't know why the first thing when I closed the book was, I wonder what it took to do that.
Well.
And I'm really glad I had this conversation with you, because not only did I find out what it takes to do it, but I found out the inspiration behind doing something like this. And it's really about the creative process, and it's really about following your dreams.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Follow your dreams.
I really encourage people to at least research the book and check it out, because it is on a different spectrum than what you might think it is. The main thing I think that is cool about it is that it's a story. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's a story on many different levels, right? And that's why I wanted people to know your story from your collecting journey, is that on one hand, it's a great story that tells you the facts and what was going on, and so much information that I never knew. And I research this stuff all the time. And there were tidbits of information that connected the pieces for me, in pulp culture. It connected the pieces for me about what was going on at that time. But then on the other hand, it was a story about one collector. And it was a story about your amazing collection that you amassed over time. But it's a true inspiration story about not quitting, about following your dreams, about, even when people tell you, yeah, shouldn't be doing this. It was a real inspiration getting to know you. It was a real inspiration getting to know about the book. I do want to talk about some features of the book that I found super interesting that we learned today, was that there's QR codes inside your book. Before, I knew all of your YouTube videos, but then when I opened the book and I scanned the QR codes, it takes you directly to those YouTube videos, and you learn more information about those toys, and you get a visceral experience, seeing like you turn and seeing you do the functions and what came with it. What's your favorite feature about this book, or what's something that is your favorite of this book?
Well, it's probably the when I start to do the Millennium Falcon, because it's something. It's one of such an iconic spaceship anyway. So when I start to make the video for it, I try to get more accurate as possible to get a close up for the inside of the cockpit where the droids are hidden, and also when I start to do like the AT-AT, start to make a small walker at the end of the video. I try to do in a very poor way. A tribute to Phil Tippett's movement.
I saw that in the video, like your stop motion thing. Yeah, like, I thought that was cool.
Not so good at all.
I'm so glad that we got a chance to connect today, because
I'm so happy too. Yeah,
of the things that I didn't know about what you went through, and honestly, it's inspired me a lot. Getting to know you, getting to know your passion for this. And I think that if anybody watches this, to me, it was a story of inspiration and following your dreams.
That's right.
And it makes this book mean even more to me, because not only is it a great piece of informational and literature put together, but it's like, to me, it's a source of inspiration now, because when I look at it now, I'm going to feel inspiration. When I look at it now and say, I know what it took to get that. I know this person now. And, so I really, I really encourage people to go look it up. There is going to be a link down in my description for this book. I would love to give one away to my audience. So if anybody is down there right now, I would love it if you did #Kenner. And when you do #Kenner, I will be giving away a book. So hopefully that is something that either one of you can win. But I would really love it if you just went and researched the book and researched where you can get it. Where can people get this book right now?
They can get it on my website. So it's called chronicvintage.com. Right now, I do a special discount because I have 100 books left in Tennessee. What I did also to make it easier for people living in America, Canada
Mhm.
also, is I sent some stock in Tennessee, and my fulfillment partner that way give you access for cheaper fees. USPS fees are cheaper because sending from France was so expensive. It was also almost the price of the book was like almost $50 or something like that.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
today you could have the book for 53 dollars or something like that,
Nice.
plus the shipping cost, which is like from Tennessee, you come from zone 1 to zone 8 if I for priority mail, but you can also have it for $5 medium mail option. I set everything by myself on the website, so that way when you do the order to me, I send them the invoice to my fulfillment partner, and he will ship for you through the States and Canada, and also to South America to a different price, of course.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's easy way for you guys to order the 100 copies left.
Everyone, go check out the link that's in my description right now. Again, I am going to be giving away one copy. You don't have to be a subscriber. All you have to do is go in the comments and type hashtag Kenner. And I'm going to let this run for a week. I'm going to stop it after a week. So if you're watching this live, type it right now. If you're watching this on the replay, and it's probably over, but still go check out the book. Again, I am just really glad I got a chance to talk to you. It's been a long time that we've
Yeah,
been
we've
saying,
been
let's
busy.
do this. And I've been such a fan of your YouTube channel, which I thought came first. But like
Yeah.
I said, it's really nice to unfold what I'm calling the journey, like your journey. And I'm honored to sit down and talk to you about like what this took, because I know how hard it is to be a collector. As an artist, I know how hard things are when you're feeling, you know, just that feeling of I don't want to do this anymore, or should I be doing this? But you pushed through it,
Mm.
and that to me is an inspiration. So, but Jean Francois, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Hashtag Kenner in the comments. But Jean Francois, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us here.
You're welcome. I was very happy to have a chat with you today.
Thanks for joining my conversation with Jean Francois Rolland. Interviewing guests is something that I want to do more often, and as my interviewing skills get better, these videos will get better. I appreciate you watching, and to watch more videos about vintage toys, click the videos on your screen now. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I'll see you next time.